so to feel like, oh, I feel so good with you, but I'm also like, I'm holding back because I'm afraid that if I am truly myself, you're not going to like it. And if you're not going to
Yeah,
like it, that's going to cause the division. But the division
yeah.
was already happening.
Welcome to the Get Your Marriage On podcast. I'm your host, Dan Purcell, a sex and intimacy coach for married couples. My mission is to help you build and maintain a sexually vibrant and emotionally intimate marriage. Join me each week as we explore principles and practical tools based on Christian values to create the passionate, joyful, and thriving marriage you're designed to have. Shame is a universal emotion. Everyone feels shame at some point or another in their life. And almost everyone also feels sexual shame. Now, shame to me is the feeling that you're not good enough. It's the instinct to hide. It's the instinct to kind of want to split yourself and hide a part of yourself or get rid of a portion of what you feel inside of you because you feel like it's a dirty part of you or an unworthy part of you. And a lot of times we feel this way about our sexuality. So I'm really interested in stories of people who have overcome this sexual shame, this universal feeling that we all face in our lifetime. And I'm so excited to invite on my podcast today my friend Natalie Hamblin. We met over Instagram, instant friends, because we're on the same mission to help couples improve their sexual relationships. In this episode, you're going to hear Natalie talk a little bit about her story, talk about things that helped her with God's help move from sexual shame to sexual wholeness. We'll also talk about how some concepts and understanding of how religion and faith actually helps us lead to more sexual wholeness. So I'm excited for this conversation. Now, if sexual shame is something that you deal with or that you've experienced and you want help overcoming, this is what our next level program, this is our Get Your Marriage On, this is our coaching program is all about. You'll find those details on our website. And I invite you to really seriously take a look. And for a limited time, you can even try it out for 30 days for free and get up to 8 coaching sessions. You get access to our course and that material too. I also want to let you know that we have a cruise coming up in October, and I'm so excited about it. We have just a few spots left. We're sailing on the Western Caribbean, and this cruise is for the good to great couples. These are those that you'd say sex is pretty good and you want to go a little bit deeper and enjoy something a little bit more whole and fun. Even if you have a little bit of sexual shame now, this kind of a cruise is going to be a place where you'll get to learn more about accepting and enjoying and embracing your sexuality and how you can use it to build that stronger, closer, sweeter marriage. So all those details are on our website at getyourmarriageon.com for the coaching, and for the cruise, you'll find it under events. Scroll to the bottom, you'll see it there. Great. Now let's hear from my friend Natalie. Natalie, welcome to the Get Your Marriage On podcast. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing so great. Thank you for having me. This is very exciting for
Great.
me.
Good. Yeah, I love what you post on Instagram, and this specific topic today I think is going to be great for our listeners. But first, before we get started, let's get people to know you a little better. So tell us the best way to to get to know someone is to share an embarrassing experience. Do you have an embarrassing moment you can share?
I totally do. Yes. So when we were first married was
Uh-huh.
probably one of the more, okay, sex in general is like hard when you're first married because you're just learning each other and trying to figure things out. But we were in the moment and we had the
Uh-huh.
dog that was not allowed in
Uh-huh.
the room. Like I did not want that dog in the room because that felt weird. And so we had closed the door. I thought we'd close the door all the way. And we're in the moment. And all of a sudden I get this sense of being watched. And I'm immediately like out of the moment, just like focusing like what is happening. And then all of a sudden
Uh-huh.
the dog licked my butt. And it was
Ah!
so devastating for the moment because I freaked out and like jumped up and he was like, "What?" And I'm like, just losing my mind. And it's funny to look back now, but that moment, like, honestly brought so much shame to me. Like, I felt like I did something wrong, even though
Uh-huh.
it was just an innocent, funny, like, the dog just licked my butt. Like, uh,
That's
our
awesome.
dog is not allowed. The dog's not allowed in the house at this point. We've got outdoor dogs,
N-
but
Yeah, no more. That's great. That's great. So today I want to talk about sexual shame and how to overcome it. This has been coming up a lot in my private coaching sessions and in our group coaching sessions in our Get Your Marriage On the Next Level program, where I'll give you one scenario without any specifics. A man was raised in a home, the family was good, but parents had a very, especially the mom, a very negative view of sex. Sex is bad, sex is evil, it's only allowed or permitted in marriage for procreation only. You shouldn't have any pleasure from sex. You shouldn't even laugh at sexual jokes, of course, let alone think about sex. You can't touch yourself, you can't explore your own body, and anything to do with sex is like bad, evil. And you're wrong for even wanting sexual things. Like even these natural sexual desires are a sign that you're corrupt and evil. So fast forward into marriage, 14 years or however long they've been married, 20 years, it, there's going to be a lot of difficulty with this couple. And this example I gave you as a husband, it could be the wife or it could be both of them having some sort of shame about their sexuality. So, Natalie, I want to know your thoughts on how sexual shame divides a marriage.
Oh, okay. I love this topic because I've definitely felt this in my own life. So I can totally relate to this couple because my husband and I had very different sexual scripts coming into our marriage. But
Mhm.
I definitely relate to the spouse that felt like it was wrong and all those other things there. But something that I have recognized is that sexual shame doesn't come from God. And it is absolutely something that I believe Satan uses to cause a disconnect in relationships because
Uh
if
huh.
he can keep you from truly being yourself with the one person that you share every other part of your life with, if he can
Uh
keep that
huh.
divided, I think that is something that slowly grows and shifts people apart from each other versus when you can be like sexually whole and not just whole but like accepting of yourself and understanding that that is something that is god given that he wants us to use to unite our marriages. I mean, that was the game changer for me, like recognizing that there was ways that satan was getting into my marriage and causing us to have a disconnect through our sexuality.
Uh
um
huh.
like it completely changed things for us.
That's so good. When I think of shame, I think of like the Garden of Eden experience in Genesis. It's my goal this year is to read the Old Testament all the way through.
Yeah.
And Adam and Eve in Genesis is it 3? They take the fruit, and Satan says, "Hide." Like, right? That shame
Yeah.
and hiding. If someone feels shame about their sexuality, they'll tend to hide it. How does that affect the unity in a marriage?
Oh my gosh, I also I'm like thinking of specific things in my brain that have happened in our marriage.
Sure, yeah,
And
tell
without
me.
giving too much
Have you
detail, there was
Uh-huh,
a point that my husband came to me and he was like, I feel like I'm giving you 100%. Like I'm sharing all of me with you as much as I can. And I feel like there's a block there. So even though I'd never said anything out loud, like, oh, I'm feeling this constant shame about like any wants or desires or any of those things in the bedroom, it was something that I'd kept to myself for, I don't know, 13 plus years. And he could feel that. And so when he brought that to me, it was mind blowing that it was like, because I felt like our relationship has been pretty good. Like we've definitely struggled in the bedroom. But
uh-huh,
as far as like emotionally wanting to connect and all those things, like that was never an issue. It was just a matter of like work and different things. But that's another story. And so to feel like, oh, I feel so good with you, but I'm also like, I'm holding back because I'm afraid that if I am truly myself, you're not going to like it. And if you're not going to
yeah,
like it, that's going to cause the division. But the division
yeah.
was already happening. Um,
You were creating a division in your mind before it's actually manifesting in the marriage.
Yeah, which is interesting too, because if you think about like your brain is going to do everything it can to protect you, right? And so for
Uh-huh,
some reason, I felt this need to protect myself from the one person that I love the most on this planet. Like,
uh-huh,
that actually makes sense. And I do think that goes back to like these sexual scripts of like sex is dangerous or it goes against like what God actually wants for people. And some of the messaging that we get maybe in our youth that unfortunately like translates into marriage because we don't understand and recognize the shift that we get to make because we're making a marriage covenant or because now we are within the guidelines that God has set for relationships.
That's good. Another pattern I see in my coaching, Natalie, is let's say the wife as a young adult at college,
Mhm.
lots of sexual activity with lots of different partners, and then is convicted, becomes a Christian, puts that past away. Fast forward is now in a great marriage, really committed to God and her husband. Yet there's this lingering shame from her past that's haunting the marriage. What do you have what would you say to a couple like that?
Oh, that's a big one. Okay, I also really relate to that. Feeling like past misdeeds or misconduct or not fully grasping, right? Like God's intention for intimacy. Um,
Yeah,
and honestly, like that played a huge part in me holding myself back from my husband because I felt like I have to make sure that I am the guard of purity because in the past, I wasn't always that way.
uh-huh.
Um,
It's like you need to overcompensate for something,
yeah,
right?
overcompensate when it wasn't
Uh-huh,
necessary. Like, at this point, it like
uh-huh,
was not necessary to be constantly like guarding us from more.
mhm,
Um, my heart's like going 100 miles an hour because it like it's so like I get this. I know it's perspective, and I've had plenty of people, message me and have the same situation where they feel like they can't get to where they want to be because they have to hold themselves back. And I think, unfortunately, like that is almost a denial of like true repentance and the purpose of the atonement. Because if we can bring our sins to Christ and be saved through Him, those like sins, those feelings, the person that we were, that's washed away and we are made new in Christ. Um,
mhm.
and recognizing that is also something that completely changed my marriage because I didn't have to hold shame for the person that I used to be or the things that I've done. And I get to create like these new experiences and moments like with my spouse now. The atonement's purpose is to restore and heal us. And I 100% believe that's possible. And so I know another thing that is really hard for people is to bring that to God. It feels so backwards to be like, let me add God into this part of my relationship that's so intimate and it's just supposed to be between me and my spouse. But it's like
Yeah,
understanding, truly understanding, number one, that you can be changed through Christ and be this different person. And two, that within the bonds of marriage, like this is sanctified. Like this is something that God wants and needs you to have to continue to be unified and to progress together. There was a lot of prayer. I'll tell
uh-huh.
you that. There's a lot of prayer involved in coming to understand myself as well as coming to understand like what God wants in a healthy Christian marriage.
One of my favorite parables in the New Testament is Jesus teaching of the prodigal son, right? That's the
Mm.
son that went out, wasted his inheritance. Then he like comes to himself is like, "Hey, my servants of my father live better than I do. Maybe I can go back and be a servant at least." And when he's even when he's like coming back, he's on the road, he's still a far way off. The father sees him, runs and welcomes him, hugs him, gives him a robe, puts a ring on him. We're gonna kill the fatted calf. This is a special day. I just the joy that the father had in his son who's turning to come back. Like, that's the image I have of God, like, as a father that loves us and wants, like, what's best for us at all times. So, I think, like what you said, we can be completely forgiven and brought back, um, and restored, and I think that's the whole purpose of Christ's redemption for us. It's to redeem us. And that helps us, I think, a little bit better deal with our shame.
Another thing too that I'm recognizing, like not only in my past self, but with a lot of people I talk with, is that there is this like framing that sexuality is not God given. That is something
Oh,
that like the
right,
world
right. Let's talk on that.
to
Uh-huh.
make us the natural man or any of those things. And really like it's a
Yeah.
matter of reframing and understanding like God gave us this. Like his intention was for us to find happiness within marriage. And obviously there are other ways like emotionally and all the other things that you can feel connected and close. But it's like a culmination of all of that and like expressing yourself with your partner in ways that you cannot do with words, right?
Mhm.
And man, too many of us have that mindset that this is like, oh, this is something of the world. And because the way that we learn about a lot of these things, whether it's like positions or, you know, different things like that, that comes more so from the world in my experience than it has from my parents or church leaders. And so it's so easy to get caught up in thinking like, because I learned about this secularly, it must be bad. It must go against what God actually wants for
Ah,
us.
yeah.
And that also was like a huge light bulb moment for me to recognize that like this is what God wants. Like this is how we become unified. This is how he and I become closer to each other. But I also think that
Yeah.
there's a mirror in the unity that you feel as spouses that you can also feel like with God. Like when you're truly being yourself, when you're honest, you know, all the good characteristics that you would want in your relationship with your spouse are also things I believe that you can mirror like to your relationship with God. And obviously not the same relationship in any means, right? But um that you can truly be yourself with your spouse. You can also be yourself with God. And that's like
God,
wholeness.
I love that. Love that. So, yes, getting that deep in your heart that sex is good, it's God given, and it's supposed to be celebrated, enjoyed, and expressed. How did you come to that belief? What were the steps that you went through yourself where you came to believe that? Had that testimony, so to speak?
Okay. I think a lot of it was coming to understand that like my worth is unconditional. Like who I am, a child of God, like that doesn't change because I've made mistakes or that I've done stupid things in the past. That is inherent and will not change because I'm God's daughter. Um, and I think it took a lot of years of recognizing that um, that shame was not coming from God, right? So I just want to distinguish really fast because we talked about this recently on my page. Shame and guilt are two different things. Guilt can be productive and help you to want to change, to become more Christ-like, to be in alignment with God. And shame is more of being worried about how others perceive you. Okay, another way of looking at it is like guilt draws me upwards towards Christ, towards God. And shame is more outward, where I'm looking to see how am I looking in the eyes of other people, or how are people thinking of me because of their own, you know, thoughts, perceptions about what is right and
Yeah,
wrong.
right.
And so recognizing that and how shame is like, why am I worried about what someone thinks that I'm doing in my bedroom when they don't actually know anything that's going on in my bedroom? They're not invited to that moment. And so why do I worry about how that could be pursued by someone else if I know that I am, you know, living covenants or doing everything that I can to be in alignment with God and with my spouse? Why would I worry about that? But that took a lot of years of like being conscious and bringing those worries to God honestly, and like being very prayerful. Which every time I tell someone that, like, hey, if you're worried about, you know, such and such act or thinking that you are out of bounds here, like, pray about it. And they're like, what? Like, pray to God about my sex life? 100%. 100%.
Yes.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So that I think that's my second key point is like adding him to the conversation. Because again, truthfully, if I'm going to be 100% myself in this relationship, I also want to feel like I'm 100% myself with God and my relationship with him and bringing things to him and not hiding. Because like I believe that he knows, like he knows the intention of my heart. He knows what's going on in my head. But for me to be like,
Mhm.
oh, I can't pray about that right now because I don't want you to see me. But it's like he sees us, like he knows who we are.
It's not a
Um,
surprise.
right. And that's crazy. And so, like, getting out of that whole mindset, because he's so much bigger than me, like, he won't understand or he thinks that I'm doing the wrong thing. But it's like, no, reframe. Like, I am his daughter. He cares so much about me. He cares so much about each and every one of us that he wants us to bring the closest desires of our hearts, like even the scary things, bring it to him because he loves us unconditionally and wants to help us through all those situations. And I think the last thing was the huge and sparked, honestly, why I'm doing what I do now and having these conversations is because a huge aspect to me about being human is having agency. And it's really hard to make choices when you don't have information, when you don't have education or knowledge. And that is something that I notice is really missing culturally and also maybe generationally.
Yes. Uh-huh.
um, this knowledge and understanding about how sexuality works or how sex works in general, whether it's the mechanics to like the psychology, like any of those things, a lot of that information is missing. And when that is missing, um, shame is able to step in. And it's harder to make good choices because you're worried that your choices don't align with God because you don't understand what your choices are. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
And having a lot of intentional, honest, sometimes awkward and confusing conversations with my husband, like really getting to the bottom of how do we feel about this? How do we feel about this? Do we add this? Do we like this? Those types of things. And going slow and doing it together has honestly like made a huge difference and completely opened up and changed like our intimacy overall.
That's
It's been way better.
I love that. Oh, I like that. Education's so important. Earlier this week, there was an email in my inbox that I've been anticipating. I was expecting a certain email. I see it in my inbox, and I just know if I open this, this is gonna be multiple hours of work, emotional work for me, right? And I
Yeah.
just not ready for it. So I just let it sit there. I just avoided it. And the longer I avoided it, the worse my feelings got, right? Finally, yesterday's the day I opened the email and I went through it. And you know what? It wasn't that bad. But I think that's the way we treat sex.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
uh-oh, like, it's gonna be this huge can of worms once this is open, once we have this conversation, there's no going back. We're gonna need hours of work to kind of figure this out. Oh, like, but you actually do it, and how enlightening it is. So we kinda tend to sometimes choose not to educate ourselves, choose not to look because we're afraid of what's on the other side. Where if we
Yeah.
can just, grow up a little bit and look at what's on the other side, oftentimes we're now in a better position. As you say, we're more agents for ourselves. We can make better choices about that.
Yeah. No, that's huge. I really believe too that our sexuality like belongs to us for one. And it's
Yeah.
not like my husband doesn't own my preferences or, any of those things. That is an individual thing. And I think there are less limits than we think there are.
Yeah.
But that's not to
Uh-huh.
say that there's not any, right? But
Uh-huh.
a key part of being an agent too is that you are a steward. Like it is something that you have to cultivate, you have to own, you have to make sure that what you're doing like is authentic to yourself and not like again doing this because so and so said like, oh, we really love this. That may not work for your marriage, and that's 100% okay. Like you don't need to bring in things that don't feel honest and true to your relationship. But that's another reframe I feel like I had to do instead of being like, "Oh, I have this limited amount of things that I'm allowed to do," but recognizing like, "Can I steward this thing into my relationship and it be true for both of us?"
Mhm.
Um, and again, like that opened up a world for us that felt really important to progress in because that is something that I also truly believe is that God wants us to progress in all aspects of our life. And if we are limiting ourselves because it's safer to be like, oh, we can only do, let's say, like missionary. I've heard that so many times. Missionary is the
Uh-huh.
only holy way of doing this, right?
Right, right. Uh-huh.
And we're limiting ourselves and we're living in fear.
Uh-huh.
And living in fear does not help us progress. And obviously, that
No.
doesn't mean like you go outside of your morals by any means. Like there
Mhm.
is progression in morals 100%. And that's something that I really wish that I could get people to understand is that the fear also that you may be feeling, I don't think comes from God. Like you will have clarity for your marriage. And I think the fear ties back into the shame. It goes back into what Satan wants to make sexuality. If he can convince you that these things are wrong or that there is no progression, that you cannot be a better person by understanding yourself sexually, where's the progress?
Yep.
You know, if anything like that limits you and pulls you further away from your spouse and from God. Okay, I listened to like a little blurb of a podcast recently and I wish that I'd saved it because it was so good. But this lady was talking about how fear is a place and she was talking about in the Garden of Eden and how like it was somewhere that God couldn't go. And he asked Adam and Eve, he's like, where are you? Like, what's going on? And they're like, oh, we were afraid. We hid ourselves because we were afraid. And how, like, when we feel fear, we pull away from him because we think
Hmm.
it's protecting us, almost sometimes like protecting us and bringing us closer, but it's doing the opposite because when there's not clarity, when there's not knowledge or education, and you're just thinking, oh, again, your brain's like, we got to protect ourselves here. Um, and we're going to sit in this little bubble of fear and limit ourselves because we're afraid of offending God, offending the creator,
Uh-huh.
the thing he
The
created.
all-knowing, all compassionate, infinite creator. Uh-huh.
So yeah, that was just wild to me to think like, oh yeah, fear is a place that I go. Fear is somewhere that I have lived a lot of my life, truthfully. I lived a lot of my life in fear of messing up or not being the daughter that my parents wanted or not being the best school student. Like there's so many should, right? There's things that we feel like, oh, we should be. Our society or our culture tells us that we should be these things.
Hmm.
Um, And I also feel like that is living in fear and shame in a lot of ways because if we're doing things again because it's the outward, like making sure that I'm fitting in here and not aligning and looking upward and trying to be the best person in God's eyes. Yeah.
That's great, great. Well, Natalie, about education, what sources did you find that were helpful for you to gain a better, more comprehensive sex education?
Okay, so first of all, your podcast was one of the first things, and we're like racking our brains. How did we find you? I have no idea. But that was
Hmm.
so influential for us in the beginning. And you and I had talked about this previously, where I had gone with my husband. We had just gone on this getaway to Las Vegas and just had
Hmm.
this moment, like a reckoning of we're stepping outside of fear. We're stepping into the unknown and trying to figure out how to fix us because we were in a place of complete disconnect. Again, because I'm holding us back because I'm afraid and ashamed.
Uh-huh.
And at some point on that drive home, I do remember listening to your podcast and being like, oh my gosh, all these things are just like this light bulb moment. So that is also why I'm like, this is such an exciting thing for me because I remember hearing and seeing so many of these people that are like big time in my mind on your podcast, and now I'm on here. And that's like honestly surreal. Oh, I feel so grateful.
You're big time, Natalie.
Well, I don't know about that. So your podcast for one, I love Tammy Hill and I love Jennifer Finlayson Fife. And then when I had so this has been like years in the making for me too, where I felt this push to like talk about these things and like educate more and helping other people educate themselves and talking about this like at every book club I go to, all the things. And my friends are like, probably like, will you stop, please? And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
no, I want everyone to have the best marriage possible. And I truthfully believe like the sexual intimacy is a huge part that we
Yeah.
don't put enough stock in. And so last summer, I'd asked my husband, like, hey, I want to go to school. And financially, he was like, this is does not make sense. Like he was just, we were at a hard point in his business and transitioning and all these different things with his work. And so I'm like, okay, I'll just hold off. And so then I asked ChatGPT, like, hey, can you give me good like textbooks or different educators that can help me understand more, and learn about sexuality? And so I had gotten like a list of books. And I also had asked it like, hey, can you also give me articles like from my church that can align to so that I was still anxious like in the beginning of my learning of like going too far or like learning something
Yes.
that would be offensive to the spirit.
Right.
And so
Uh-huh.
I wanted a balance there of like, okay, if I'm going to read such and such about sexuality, like like if I feel like it's like pushing me too far or I'm getting too, um,
You want to be balanced. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, balance.
That's really
Um,
wise. Yeah. Uh-huh.
then I also want to be hearing other like uplifting. And I think that also truthfully helped me to understand more of like God's role in creating sex. So I studied a book from Justin Lehmiller. I hope
Hmm.
that's how you say it.
Yep. Uh-huh.
All last summer.
Uh-huh.
And
Is
I'm
it the
trying to think of it.
psychology of sex or is it the tell me what you want?
I listened to both of them
Uh-huh.
and I
Uh-huh.
and like highlighted. I felt like everything I
Uh-huh.
was like just highlighting. I'm like, this is so
Uh-huh.
close.
Uh-huh.
Um, it was just mostly like self-educating. And then at the end of last year, my church has a pathway program for getting an education or getting a
Higher
bachelor's.
education. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yep.
and it was significantly cheaper. And so they came. to our ward and they were like, hey, we want to present this. And they came and I looked at my husband and I was like, I'm doing this. And he was like, I'm so excited about this. Like, I know you want the education so bad. I know that's the right thing. Like, I don't know about timing. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I have to do this. Like, I have to sign up. So I got signed up. I started. I'm now in the process of doing my bachelor's. And I just found out that I can do classes with SHA for more of like the direct sexual education at the same time as my bachelor's, which I thought I had to have the bachelor's before I could do that. So that's super exciting. I'm hoping to start that pretty soon because that's like a fast track almost, or like an easier way of getting certified through ASECT. So that is my plan. I'm super
Great.
excited about that.
You
So
don't have to, Natalie, but do you want to put in a plug for the Intimately Us app?
oh my gosh, yes. Okay. I have loved the Intimately Us app because so I can remember this specific moment after Vegas where we've already like just to recap, just for everyone listening, because you already know this, but we go to Vegas and we decide there's probably so much more, and we're doing this together, and we believe where our relationship at is with God as well, that we will know like if we push things too far. So we go to a I mean, I don't want to call it a sex shop, but that's what it is.
Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
We went to one that we felt
A toy
comfortable with.
store. Huh?
And we were so awkward and just like, we are very uncomfortable, like just this little Mormon couple, like just so awkward. And the lady comes up and she's like, hey, just excited and like, we have this, we have that. And we're like, we know nothing. We know nothing.
Uh-huh.
Like, talk to us like we're babies. Like, we don't know anything about this stuff.
Uh-huh.
And she described everything, told us how it worked, how you could use it together, like all these different things. We ended up walking away with like hundreds of dollars of products, just like we're gonna have fun. And it's just us, and we're not meeting up with anybody else here, and we're just gonna like get in tune with who we are together.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Spent hours in our hotel room, and it was great. And we did not ever get to the point of feeling like something that we just did was wrong. It was
Uh-huh.
very much like I feel so in tune with my husband that I have never been
Mhm.
happier. And we went home, and I honestly was like, everyone needs to feel like this. Like, I want everyone to experience this because it was
Uh-huh.
so good. It was like another level. It was like, honestly, it's like the spiritual layer of the relationship that it was like, we finally tapped into this. Like, this isn't just
Yes.
bodies moving, it isn't just like a means to an end. This is like the culmination of who we are. And we
Yes.
just showed each other for the first time. And it was like, I want to experience that as often as possible. And it is
Yes.
possible. It's not just like a one-time thing. It's like you can tap into that and it makes everything so much better.
Yes,
Um,
yes. That's my experience too. Uh-huh.
yeah. And so on the way home, listening to your podcast and then hearing about the app too, I was like, oh, we've got to try this. Okay. So that was a lot of background. Back to where we, so we're home from Vegas and we're trying to explore like, okay, we kept it still pretty safe. Like we added new things, we tried toys, we loved that, we feel great. What about other areas can we expand into? And we were not comfortable. And so I remember like we were back to back. I'm pretty
Uh-huh.
sure I was in the fetal position, like, this is terrifying. Lights off, so not looking at each other, can't see anything, and whispering like, what about this thing? And then the other
Uh-huh.
person was like, hey, I could maybe get it, like just so uncomfortable. But we had started that conversation and then decided like, oh, let's look into this app. Like, let's look at it. And there were so many talking points and so many things on there that we were like, oh, this makes it so much easier. And the quizzes to be able to answer and not have to be like, I'm telling this to your face, but I am
Uh-huh.
saying, and then you can also answer the quiz and we can see. And then when we're comfortable, I mean, honestly,
Mhm.
there were times when it was like we were texting in the Just Between Us app too, of like,
Uh-huh.
okay, let's talk about this because we still like can't talk in person. Um, but it was like building, like you have to build upon those moments. And that app was so influential for us, honestly, and being able to move through the awkwardness and into a territory of like, oh, it's a random Tuesday and we're in the kitchen doing dishes and we're talking about what we did last night and what we liked and what we didn't like, you know, different things like that, where it's like feeling sexually whole.
That is so
So much
cool.
engagement. So yes, I'm extremely grateful for your app and how it helped us
Mhm.
to move through that.
Natalie, this has been such a great conversation. As we close, can you think of, let's say someone's listening to this, they like what you're saying, they know education's helpful for them overcoming shame. Any last bullet points that you want to shout from the rooftops about maybe how to overcome sexual shame?
Yes. Okay. I would say three things. Number one, coming to know who you are and understanding that you are a child of God and that worth does not change regardless of sexual preferences or any of those things. I think that's number one. Really honing in on who you are. And when you know who you are, then start to invite God into the conversation and understand that He created this for us to have pleasure. That is important to Heavenly Father, that we have joy here on earth. And sex is one of those ways that you feel joy in marriage. Then, lastly, educating and communicating with your spouse to help release the shame about the unknown and the unknown territory, all the things that are coming in the future, like all the good things that you can have in your relationship, educating and communicating about those things in safe ways. I think those three things together will help you release that shame that you feel around your sexuality.
That's good. Thank you very much. Where can people go to learn more about what you do and where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me at Shaking the Sheets on Instagram. It's shaking.the.sheets. That's where I'm at, Maddie.
All right, great. Thank you. Wait, before you go, I want to hear if you have a black belt sex tip for our listeners. This is a
Oh,
tradition I ask some of my guests, and the idea is, let's say you've overcome shame to a large degree, you're going to commit to feeling more whole, and in your relationship, you reconciled sexuality and spirituality, and now you're ready to take things up a notch, spicier, hotter, something more exciting. What's one thing that you would recommend a listener do to make things a lot more, or just a little more exciting or fun
yeah.
tonight?
Okay. I'll tell you exactly what I do. Because
Let's hear.
I'll say that, like, even though I feel like we've eradicated shame from our relationship, like, there's still moments of not being confident, right? Like,
Of
they
course.
aren't hand in hand. So here's what I do when I want the most confidence. I take a good long everything but the hair shower. So, because I mean, I don't want to blow dry my hair, that takes too long. Get ready naked. So that means like putting on makeup, lingerie, lotion, all the things, doing that, seeing myself in my skin, and really getting into like acceptance of who I am.
Like in front of the mirror is what you mean,
In
like, or
front of
whatever.
the mirror, huge, that's
Uh-huh.
huge. And then I also put on some type of music that gets me, like, excited, like, energetically, not necessarily, like, sexual music, but just something that, like, gets
Not
my
slow jazz. Okay, got it.
honestly, it could be anything, like, whatever works for you and gets you excited, and get, like, totally in the zone. Sometimes headphones are better because you can hear, all the different things in the music when it's directly in your ears. I do all of that while I'm getting ready, and that, like, I feel like I'm a different person, and I have all the confidence in the world, and I go in there and I'm like, "Yeah, I just shocked your socks off, didn't I?" So
Yes.
yeah, you gotta own it. You gotta, like, find that confidence, and it doesn't necessarily come from what you look like. It comes from within, like, knowing, like, who you are and accepting that in what you're seeing. So,
Love it. That is so good. Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you for listening. Please share this podcast with all of your married friends. I promise they will thank you for life. Download the Intimately Us app if you haven't yet, and share that with your friends too. And go get your marriage on. Talk to you next week.